It's another Football Friday on News OK Live. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, joined by a portion of our college football coverage team and soon to be joined by others. Joining us from just downstairs at the Oklahoman, 9000 North Broadway in Oklahoma City, is our OU beat writer, Jason Kersey. And joining us from the newsroom of the Oklahoman, where she's preparing for the long trip to Lubbock for Saturday night's OSU-Texas Tech game, Jenny Carlson.
Hello.
Hello. We're hoping to be joined by OSU beat writer Gina Mizell and columnist Barry Trammell, who are going to be joining Jenny on their trip to Lubbock, where the Oklahoma State Cowboys will face Texas Tech in a big Big 12 game. Tech coming off a tough loss in Norman last Saturday and getting ready to face Oklahoma State at home, where it could be tough. And Jenny, we'll start with you. Tech coming home, I just wonder, where does Lubbock rank as on the chart of difficult venues to play in the Big 12?
Well, I mean, historically, I think it's wait a minute, I'm getting feedback. Okay, there we go. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
To me, it's been one of the toughest places to play. I mean, I think there's been a lot of teams that have gone in there that have been probably better than Tech over the years and lost in Lubbock. So that's been, over the last couple of years, lost a little bit as Tech struggled. But now I think it's the same way again. I mean, they have fans that are pretty crazy about their team. They have a good team, and I think that makes it a really tough place to play. It's going to be a night game. Cliff Kingsbury has asked his fans to come in their Halloween costumes. So to me, it's going to be a tough place for anybody to win. It's going to be tough for Oklahoma State to win there this weekend.
Have we ever given thought, Jason, of having our coverage team go to games and cover them in Halloween costumes? And if not, why not?
I don't. Not that I recall, but I'd do it if that's what we decide we want to do.
Fedora hats with the press thing on it, like in the old days, that'd be good.
I think the closest we came was a former writer who shall remain nameless, showed up to work on the phone crew on a Friday night, one year dressed as Beetlejuice, another time dressed as Bones the Bellhop. I think that's a direct quote. Am I got that right, Jason?
Something like that, yeah. And if anybody is watching and knows nicknames and probably can figure out who we're talking about by that name right there.
Also, just another hint, he looks a lot like Cliff
No, he
Kingsbury.
doesn't.
No,
he doesn't.
No,
Yes, he does.
no, he does not.
Yes, he does. Hey, joining us from the newsroom alongside Jenny is our OSU beat writer, Gina Mizell. Gina, we're talking about Lubbock as a tough venue. You've been there one time, and it didn't seem like a tough place for the Oklahoma State Cowboys that day. What do you expect to be different Saturday night? We're having trouble getting, for technical difficulties. Gina apparently can't hear my question. We'll go back to Jenny. You've been to games in Lubbock, Jenny. What exactly is it that makes that a unique place?
Well, I mean, I think that the thing that is going to be tough for OSU this year is the fact that they've just had inconsistent quarterback play. Yeah, the last time they went there, it didn't look like a tough place to play at all. They rolled over Texas Tech, Brandon Weeden leading the way, and it was a rout. But they don't have Brandon Weeden, and they don't have the consistency that he brought to that starting quarterback position. If they can get any good play out of their quarterback position, I think they've got a chance to maybe move the ball on Texas Tech. We saw OU last week have some success in the running game, have a lot of success in the running game, but it really opened up when they were able to stretch the field with a couple plays. And if OSU can do that, maybe they can run the ball on Texas Tech, but they've just been so inconsistent with the quarterback, it's a little bit hard to know if they're going to be able to do that or not.
Also, Oklahoma State, Jenny, there's a not so good trend on the road. The Cowboys have lost 5 of their last 8 on the road. The only wins in that stretch coming over Iowa State, Kansas, and Texas, San Antonio. So it's not like, and just seemed like a few years ago, 2011 to be exact, we were writing stories and sort of celebrating how the Cowboys had really turned a corner as far as winning on the road. It's been really rough going in the Big 12 especially. Is it come down is it as simple as who they got taking snaps, or are there some other issues to consider there?
Well, I think that's definitely where you've got to start. I mean, I think that, when they had Brandon Weeden, it made it a whole lot easier to win on the road. And I think, it was also the fact that you had guys that were sort of experienced, like Brandon Weeden, at other positions that, didn't go on the road and get nervous or get intimidated. And not to say that they don't have some leadership that can do the same sort of thing, but clearly it helps when your quarterback sort of has that no fear mentality, is able to go and play in hostile environments and not be affected. But I think OSU, if I mentioned before, they can run the ball, and if they can run it really effectively, I think it gives them a chance. But I think something else that'll help them is their defense. The times that they were good on the road, they had a good defense. And they've got a really good defense this year. So can that translate on the road and do some things that could keep them in the game and maybe win at the end? I think so. I think they've got a chance to score some defensive touchdowns again this week. Tech turns the ball over. We saw it last week at OU. They turned it over 3 times. So I could definitely see this OSU defense coming up with some turnovers and maybe even some touchdowns.
Jason, you just saw Texas Tech. You just saw the kind of passing game the Red Raiders present, which was different than anybody else either OU or OSU have seen so far. And you also got to see Jay Samaro, one of the Big 12's biggest weapons. How hard is it? What kind of day do you think OSU's defense is in for in trying to stop him?
I think it'll be a challenge for Oklahoma State. It's the first offense like that they've had to face this year, and Amaro is outstanding. He fumbled against OU, which was really kind of out of character for him. But he's a tough matchup for anybody. I think he's so big and got such good hands that I think just about any defense would have trouble slowing him down.
Jason, also taking the Tech question, you just got to see Tech. We wrote last week. Jenny wrote a column pointing out that at number 10 in the BCS, Tech was overrated, and in a literal statement overrated. In other words, rated higher than their achievement. That really caused some stir, especially our presentation. I know there were reports Cliff Kingsbury distributed the paper a lot over breakfast. There was word that other people weren't too pleased with that. But the question remains, is Tech overrated? And it seems like the way they played Saturday night in Norman really sort of earned them some prestige. What did you think about Tech?
Yeah, I still think they're a pretty good team, and I think now at 15 I think they're 15 in the BCS. I don't think that's necessarily overrated at 15. I think that's probably about where they belong at this point. But they did play well in Norman, and they were right in that game at a couple different junctures. So I don't think Tech is overrated right now. I think they're right about where they belong.
We got Gina Mizell back, hopefully. Gina, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Super. Well, let's talk about the Cowboys. Of course, a win over Oklahoma State would represent Texas Tech's best win of the season. It is a home game, and we are, as a staff, all of our picks, we all picked Texas Tech. So we'll start with you. Why'd you pick Tech over OSU?
Well, number one, because they're playing at home, and it's a Saturday night in Lubbock. And I've never experienced that personally, but I've obviously heard stories, and just you can tell that this fan base has rallied around Cliff Kingsbury and is really fired up about this team. So the home field advantage is probably the number one reason why I picked the Red Raiders. And I just don't know, based on what we've seen from Oklahoma State's offense, even with the strides the running game made against Iowa State, Desmond Rowland obviously going off for 219 yards and 4 scores, I don't know if this offense can hang with Texas Tech as far as match them point for point, even if the defense plays as well as it has all year. So I like Texas Tech in a close game, but I think just based on the fact that they're playing at home, and I think their offense is a little more high-powered, it's actually a lot more high-powered than any offense they've faced so far this season. I like the Red Raiders to win a close one.
We got Barry Trammell with us now, and Barry, we're talking about why no one on the staff, our staff, picked Oklahoma State to win Saturday night in Lubbock. What's your explanation?
Tech played 2 quarterbacks this year, both true freshmen, and they both played much better than OSU's 2 quarterbacks. Generally, you just take the best quarterback. That's generally what you do.
Well, and the best quarterback, of course, is something that Oklahoma State can't seem to settle on. Gina, they've been back and forth between Clint Shelf and J.W. Walsh. Where do you think they'll land Saturday?
I think Shelf will still start. I wouldn't be surprised if J.W. Walsh came in some of those short yardage and goal line situations. It sounds like that was part of the plan against Iowa State, but the kind of the flow of the game just didn't go that way. So I think we'll probably see both quarterbacks in some capacity, but Clint Shelf can't throw for 78 yards again. That just can't happen. And so, I don't think his leash is necessarily super short. He has one bad series and it's going to get yanked like he did against Mississippi State. But he, like I said, he can't throw for 78 yards again. This offense in the passing game needs to be more productive. So if he struggles mightily again, maybe we will see J.W. Walsh. But I think we'll see him regardless sooner than mop-up duty, which is where he first came in the game against Iowa State.
We're going to go to Barry here in a second, ask him to tweak his sound just a little bit. We're having a hard time picking him up a little bit. And while we're waiting for him to do that, Jenny, I'm going to ask you. Barry's writing on this topic tomorrow. He's going to say something like why it should be obvious who the Cowboys quarterback should be. Who do you think it should be?
By the way, I think Barry's set now. I unmuted his mic, so I think we're set with Barry. I think it should be. I think it should be Clint Shelf. I mean, I know he hasn't been consistent to the level that they would like him to be. That they have seen, the Brandon Whedons of their past be. But I think the threat of him throwing more accurately right now beats out J.W. Walsh. I mean, I think that Walsh is. He's not been inconsistent in his ability to throw long. He's not been able to do it. I mean, that's his situation. So I think if the Cowboys want to have any threat that they could throw it deep, I think they got to stick with Walsh, and then they got to stick with Shelf, and then they got to hope that he connects on a couple of those passes.
Barry, who you say it's painfully obvious who should be the Cowboys quarterback? Who is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, it's J.W. Walsh. If you can't, if you say that Walsh can't throw deep, even if that's so, Clint Shelf couldn't throw the slant at Iowa State. I mean, he's throwing the ball at the feet of Tracy Moore and Juwan Seals and all those guys. So, I mean, he wasn't just missing; he was missing badly. I mean, if Shelf doesn't upgrade his performance, the Cowboys are going to roll by good teams. So. And last year he was, even when the offense was working well, he was a 55% passer in a lot of games, 51 in Bedlam. So they need, they need somebody to complete passes short also. And the best thing about Shelf was his run game, which is a little bit of a surprise. So Tech might be ready for that this week.
Barry, I'll stay with you for a second. Lloyd on our News OK Live page asked question about how OU and OSU's defenses compare, and he maintains that OU's defense did a good job of sort of containing Texas Tech last week. Would you agree with that? And do you think that OU and OSU are comparable defensively?
I would say that OSU's defense so far has proven to be a little bit better. Now, the one difference is
the Cowboys have not played
the four best passing teams they're going to play.
They haven't played the OU.
They haven't played the OU, Baylor, Tech, or Texas.
They're largely untested.
So they're largely untested in the secondary or the pass defense.
But overall, the defense played very well.
And I think they've got a very good chance to go down there and hold Tech in the 20s.
I just don't know if OSU
can get past 21.
Gina, a question again from the News OK Live page from Mike. Back on the quarterbacks, wanted to know how many of those bad passes last week were wind aided or influenced.
Well, certainly when Oklahoma State was going, I can't remember which directions, but in the second and third quarter, the wind was certainly a factor. But Mike Gundy didn't want to blame the wind for that, for those bad passes. He didn't want to use that as an excuse. So certainly it wasn't perfect conditions to throw the football. Certainly it had an impact. But again, like Barry said, he was missing badly on some of those timing type throws where it's really not you're throwing a long ball and the wind catches it and makes it go somewhere it doesn't want to go, or you didn't want the ball to go. Those were some shorter routes, some easier throws, so to speak, and he was missing on those. So certainly that was a factor, but still, you got to complete more than 10 of 26 passes, and by the second half, the passing game was so ineffective, and Desmond Rowland was running the ball so well that they just kept handing the rock to him and letting him go to work. So the wind was a factor, but I wouldn't say that was the reason why he only completed 10 of 26 passes.
Switching gears a little bit, but staying on the road with the Oklahoman college football coverage team, it's an interesting stretch for us. You guys are going to be in Lubbock on Saturday, and then another portion of you will keep going. In fact, could just stay in Texas if you want to, but I hope you'll come back. Go on down to Waco Thursday night for a big OU-Baylor game. Jason, you'll be there. And let's just start off with you. Is this a chance? The Sooners are they're underdogs, a couple touchdown underdogs I think I've seen to Baylor. Is this a chance for Bob Stoops to sort of regain the big game Bob reputation that he had?
I think it's a chance for him to start to regain that, definitely. I mean, this is a top 10 team that's undefeated, that very, only one team's managed to slow down enough to hold them under 40 points, or heck, under 50 points, I guess. So I think that it is an opportunity in a big Thursday night game on national television to sort of start to regain that reputation, definitely.
Jenny, what's more likely to happen Thursday night in Waco? The Sooner defense slowing down Baylor, or the Sooner offense keeping up with the Bears on the high-powered Bears on the scoreboard?
I would say that the defense would have to be the ones to do that. I don't see the Oklahoma offense scoring 70 points to keep up with Baylor. If this turns into a track meet, I just can't imagine there's any way that OU comes out on the high side of that. I think their offense, if they can run the ball, that to me could shorten the game, could be the answer to maybe answering scores, but I don't think they can answer 10 touchdowns. That's the kind of offense we're talking about with Baylor here. I think the Oklahoma defense is going to have to do some things to slow down Baylor. And, maybe Barry and I were talking on the press row earlier today. Maybe that's where this, extra time, 10 or 11 days to prepare, maybe that's where the Oklahoma defense gets a little advantage, and that those younger guys that are going to have to be heavily involved with alignment and those sorts of things, maybe they get a chance to, watch a little bit more film and have more of a chance to do some things to get the defense in position to make plays. That we've seen them struggle with that from time to time. Maybe that's where a little extra prep time helps the Sooners out.
Barry, you wrote about this in Monday's editions of the Oklahoman, about how the Sooner coaches really decided to put the game in Blake Bell's hands Saturday night against Texas Tech. He goes on the road now to face Baylor and Waco. Have the Sooners come to a point where they're confident that Blake Bell can make the big throws in a big game?
Oh, probably not, if I was guessing. I think they realized after one quarter they were going to have to open it up a little bit. They just refused to seem to unshackle Blake until the second quarter against Tech. I think the Sooners will go into this game hoping that their best plan is ball control, sustained long drives, 5-6 minutes, keep that Baylor offense over there. Now, a sustained long drive, you still throw. One way you move the chains is throw for first downs. So I think you'll still see a lot of first down throws by Oklahoma. They don't want to go to Waco and throw 50 passes. They'd like to go to Waco and throw 24 passes. What'd they throw at Tech? 22, I think. So that would be what they'd like to do. But they definitely are going to have to they're going to rely on Blake to throw some passes, first down, 2nd and 5, those kinds of things, just to keep Baylor off balance and keep those chains moving.
Jason, we didn't get to see a ton of this game. We were at the Cotton Bowl writing about OU Texas that day, that Kansas State proved to be the only team that sort of tapped the brakes on the Baylor offensive explosion. I think it's 35-25, and the Wildcats played keep away. Do you see the Sooners being capable of taking that game plan and putting it in action Thursday night?
Yeah, I think that's going to be their best chance to win is by playing keep away, and I think they have the personnel to pull that off, because I'm not sure Baylor's defense is good enough to stop OU from doing that. If they wanted to control the ball and hang on to it and pound the ground game, so definitely I think that's going to be OU's best chance to win, because if they can't do that, then I don't think they can win.
Guys, we'll end with this. Each of you have made a trip to Lubbock, the land of the wide streets, with Barry Trammell, who not too long ago would wax poetically about his love for that West Texas city. It's been a while, really, and I wonder, is Barry going to get the same kind of reception that he once got in Lubbock? It seemed as if he was ready to receive the keys to the city and some sort of maybe make the street inspector, the wide street inspector. Jenny, what has happened to Barry's love for Lubbock?
Well, the way I understand it is that he felt like the hotels in Lubbock were price gouging on game weekend. He stayed outside the city limits for several years. I was never on one of those trips where we had to stay elsewhere, but apparently that has softened some. He's sitting right behind me. That's why I'm looking over my shoulder. But he'll have to tell the whole story on that one. He definitely loves Lubbock for its wide streets. That has not changed. Still loves Lubbock for kegels. That has not changed. But I don't know about the hotels. He'll have to tell us the whole story.
Well, hey, I know why he doesn't love Lubbock as much anymore. He got a speeding ticket the last time we went there.
Nice.
Wasn't in Lubbock. That was out in the desert.
Barry, what happened with you in Lubbock, and can things be patched up?
Well, Jackie O's right about the price gouging. I don't go for price gouging. But the problem I didn't turn on Lubbock. Lubbock turned on me. I mean, I write all these glowing things about Lubbock, and somebody from the Visitors and Convention Bureau called me. Just thrilled with me. Just thought I was the greatest thing. He said, if I ever can do anything for you, let me know. I said, okay, I got something for you. We've been trying to do a story on Bobby Knight's wife, which everybody knows. She's from Oklahoma, used to coach at Omega. I said, Bobby won't cooperate? See what you can do. He said, I'm sure I can get that worked out for you. I said, okay. He sent me an email about a week later. He said, I don't think that's going to work out. So, it's a good lesson to learn that gratitude only goes so far.
I'm grateful for all of you for joining us on this Football Friday Hangout. And now you're off to Lubbock, and we're off to wherever else we do. That's all for this edition of Football Friday Hangout, but you can stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at News OK, and every morning in the Oklahoman.